Hi everybody guys, I hope I'm audible and visible. Can you guys see me? Can you guys hear me? Just waiting for your confirmation. Once we have that, we'll start with the session. Please let me know if you guys can hear me and see me clearly. So another important session on reading comprehension. Let's get started with some of the beautiful passages we have been keeping for ourselves. Let's start with this passage. Please have a look at this passage, guys. We have very interesting passage here where you have a story being carved and then we discuss what is there in the passage. I'm giving you 2 minutes, quickly go through it, then we discuss it over. Okay, so let's get started with the passage. I'll be explaining the entire thing to you, but let me just show you some bit of things before we get started. So when we talk about any reading comprehension, and I ask you to read the first paragraph, how do we go about by reading the passages? We know that any passage would have an introduction, it would have the body, and then it would also have the associated conclusion, where the author opines about what has been shared. Right. So in the introduction, you'll find that the author gives the claim, introduces the idea. Okay. Then you have the body of the passage, which is more about examples, analogies, reasons for something to happen, and then the tone of the author gets rhetorical. Okay. And then last of all, we have the conclusion, where the author shares the opinion about something. Okay. So here, suppose we have 5 paragraphs for any passage. Okay. Suppose we have 5 paragraphs. What do you expect in these 5 paragraphs? The first paragraph will be an introduction. This will be more about the body, and this will be more about conclusion. Right? So what we can do is the first paragraph and the last paragraph are the most important paragraphs. This would introduce the claim, and this would of course say henceforth this can be proved. But the 4 to 5 paragraphs in the mid, what do we do with these? What we can always try is, suppose we have 5 sentences, right? Suppose we have 5 sentences. What do we do? We can try that we read the first one, right? We read the last sentence, and the middle sentences can be skipped. Again, this is more or less like something which is not needed, right? So we can skip it. So now this is the first paragraph, and then we have some paragraphs, and then we have the last paragraph, right? So I want you guys to just read the first paragraph carefully, and then the second and the third paragraph can be skipped, not altogether, but at least the middle portion of the paragraphs. So give it a shot and then we discuss it, guys. Quick 1 minute. All right, I'm taking you to the next paragraph. Please have a look at it. Don't try to punch in every sentence. Okay, moving ahead to the next paragraph. Okay, last paragraph, and then we have some questions. Two more to go. So read this one. Okay, next one, last one probably. Then we have questions. Okay, let's have a look at the passage together since we have questions now starting. What does the paragraph talk about? The career of trumpeter Miles Davis was one of the most astonishingly productive that jazz music has ever seen. Right? So here we are talking about Miles Davis, that his career was one of the most astonishingly surprising productive career. They were not expecting that his career would be this productive, but this is very surprising to see that his career came out to be the most surprisingly productive career amongst the jazz music that was ever there. Right, so it says the career of trumpeter Miles Davis was one of the most astonishingly productive that jazz music has ever seen, yet his genius has never received its due. The impatience and artistic restlessness that characterized his work spawned one stylistic turn after another and made Davis anathema to many critics who deplored his abandonment first of bebop and then of cool acoustic jazz for ever more innovative sounds, right? So, career of this was one of the most astonishingly productive that jazz music has ever seen. So, why? You know, the question arises like, why was his career the most surprising one, the most productive one? The question is, how come? Because there are some reasons it says, but yet his genius has never received its due. फिर भी, the value he had was never enough for the value prop he got. He was not valued enough. The impatience and artistic restlessness that characterized his work spawned one stylistic turn after another and made Davis anathema to many critics. So he's like, he was criticized for his work. Who deplored his abandonment? जिन्होंने उसके abandonment को कि maybe he was not focused on one thing or putting on just anything and everything on him. Deployed his abandonment first of bebop and then of cool acoustic jazz for ever more innovative sounds. Having begun his career studying bebop, Davis pulled the first of many stylistic surprises when in 1948 he became a member of an impromptu musical think tank that gathered in a New York City apartment. The work of this group not only slowed down tempos and featured ensemble playing as much as or ever even more solos in direct reaction to bebop, it also became the seed bed for the West Coast cool jazz style, right? So what it's saying is that having begun his career studying bebop, Davis pulled the first of many stylistic surprises when in 1948. What did he do? Became a member of an impromptu musical think tank, right? We are talking about why was he so astonishingly productive, right? One, when he was producing his first of many of the stylistic surprises, in 1948 he became the member of an impromptu musical think tank that gathered in a New York City apartment. Work of this group not only slowed down tempos and featured ensemble playing as much as ever, more than solos in direct reaction to bebop, it also became the seedbed for the West Coast cool jazz style. In what would become a characteristic zigzag, Davis didn't follow up on these innovations himself. Instead, in the late 1950s, he formed a new brand that broke free from jazz restrictive pattern of chord changes. Okay, so what it says is that in what would become a characteristic zigzag, David didn't follow up on these innovations himself. He didn't follow up on them. Instead, himself, 1950s, he formed a new brand that broke free from the jazz restrictive pattern of chord changes. Soloists could determine the shape of their melodies without referring back to the same unvarying repetition of chords. In this period, Davis attempted to join jazz phrasings, harmonies, and tonal qualities with a unified and integrated sound similar to that of a classical orchestral piece. In his recordings, the rhythms, no matter how jazz like, are always understated and instrumental voicings seem muted. David's recordings from late 1960s signal that once again his direction was changing. Just a second, guys. Take my to mute. Just a minute. All right. So Davis recordings from the table late 1960s signal that once again his direction was changing on files. Kilimanjaro, Davis requests that keyboardist Herbie Hancock play electric rather than acoustic piano caused consternation among jazz purists of the time. Right, so it's very important to understand that what is the time when we are talking about. And sometimes timing is going to be contemporary, like the same time. Okay, so okay, so Davis recording from the late 1960s signal that once again his direction was changing on files take Kilimanjaro. Davis requests that keyboardist Herbie Hancock play electric rather than acoustic piano. Consternation among jazz purists of the time. And more importantly, he says other albums featured rock style beats, heavily electronic instrumentation, a loose improvisational attack, and a growing use of studio editing to create jagged sound spaces, right? So his recordings from the late 1960s signal that once again his direction was changing, that he was always changing. Even if he was criticized, he would always change. So on Phil's Take Kilimanjaro, Davis requests that keyboardist Herbie Hancock play electric. He wanted that he should play electric music than acoustic piano caused consternation. So there was some kind of, uh, you know, um, dismantlement of the entire faith they had in the jazz music of the time. Other albums featured rock style beats, heavily electronic instrumentation, right? So he wanted, he requested the keyboardist to play electric, and that's how he changed the things altogether. Other albums featured rock style beats, heavily electronic instrumentation, loose improvisational attack, and a growing use of studio editing to create jagged sound spaces. So by 1969, David's typical studio procedure was to have musicians improvise from a base script of material and then to build finished pieces of out of tape like a movie director. Right? So his work was now to have musicians improvising from a base script like what they were creating earlier and then to build finished pieces out of tape like movie director. So rock groups had pioneered the process. They were like coming out of the process. To jazz lovers raised on the ideal of live improvisation, that approach was a violation of the premise that recordings should simply document the musician's thought processes in real time. Davis again became the target of fierce polemics by purist jazz critics who have continued to belittle his contributions to jazz. So, his typical studio procedure was to have musicians improvise from a base script of material and then to build finished piece out of tape, like a movie director. So, rock groups had pioneered the process. Rock groups had actually moved upon the process to jazz lovers raised on the ideal of live improvisation, and that approach was a violation of the premise that recordings should simply document the musician. So, this approach that recordings should only document violation of the promise. Recording should simply document the musician's thought process in real time. Davis again became the target of fierce polemics by purist jazz critics who've continued to belittle his contribution to jazz. So the people who were always challenging him, now he was like trying to tell them that he's not the same person they are criticizing always, and he now is reverting back. What probably underlies the intensity of the reactions against Davis is fear of the broadening of possibilities that he exemplified. Ironically, he was simply doing what jazz explorers have always done, reaching out for something new that was his own. But because his career endured, because he didn't die young or record only sporadically, and because he refused to dwell in whatever niche he had previously carved out, critics find it difficult to definitively rank Davis in the aesthetic hierarchy to which they claim. Okay, so what does this paragraph do? What is the understanding of the paragraph? Here it says that what probably underlies the intensity of the reactions against David is fear of the broadening of possibilities that he exemplified. Right? That what people felt, that there lies the intensity of reactions against Davis is a fear of broadening of possibilities. That possibilities might be broadened, they might be increased. Ironically, he was simply doing what jazz explorers have always done. Right? So he was actually on his right path, always doing what the jazz explorers would always do, reaching for something new that was his own. But because his career endured, because he didn't die young or record only sporadically, he refused to dwell in whatever niche he had previously carved out. Critics find it difficult to definitely rank Davis in the aesthetic hierarchy to which they cling. They can't call him as an aesthetic music player. Why? They always cling to that, but they can't count him in that. Right? The reason is because it was whatever niche he had previously carved out, he didn't die young or record only sporadically. He did it, whatever his career could endure, he did it till then. Okay. Before we move ahead, I want everyone to help me out with the general idea, the structure and tone. So quickly, helping you out with the GST, that is general idea, structure and tone, the idea of the passage, the central idea, structure as in the function of each paragraph, and T means tone and title. Okay, help me out with this. Then we move to the questions ahead. Are we good to discuss? Okay. So, what is the understanding of the passage? The passage talks about Davis, Miles Davis, in the entire passage. Okay, and how he was criticized for multiple things. You know how his music went, how he went for more of electronic rather than acoustic guitar or acoustic music, and every time there was some kind of criticism he has to change. He had to change, on a vast scale. So let's have a look at some questions and try to solve it. Let's have a look at the first question, guys. Quick 1 minute and then we discuss it. I want you guys to eliminate all the options and give me the correct answers. Quickly, everyone, then we discuss. Please let me know once you're ready and we can discuss the question. Okay. So what does the question say? It says, which of the following best states the main point of the passage, right? We need to figure out the main point of the passage, what is being stated here. So one says, okay, let me just get my marker. So one says, because the career of Miles Davis was characterized by frequent shifts in styles, he never fulfilled his musical potential. How many of you think that A could be a good choice? And if you think A could be a good choice, why? If you want me to take you back to the passage, please let me know. But why do you think it's a good choice and why do you think it is not a good choice? Whatever your answer is, please type it down in the chat box and let me know. Why are we going for a particular option? Yeah? So A cannot be considered. Why is A not to be considered? Because A says, because the career of his Miles Davis was characterized by frequent shifts in styles, he never fulfilled his musical potential. Not that he didn't fulfill his musical potential, he did. In fact, he changed their viewpoint altogether. Because his career of Miles Davis does not fit neatly into the preconceptions about the life and music of jazz musicians, jazz critics have not accorded him the appreciation he deserves. That is what it shows. That entirely, there have been just critics for him. There's no one who's praised his work, praised his art, his music. Because the career of Davis was unusually long and productive, he never received the popular acclaim generally reserved for artists with more tragic life histories. Not really. It's not that he's not attained it, he's not generally received acclaim generally reserved for artists. Long and productive career of spawned most of the major stylistic changes. It's not the productive career that spawned it. Miles Davis' versatility and openness was inspired the admiration of most jazz critics. No. So answer eventually comes down to Bombay B, right? Because the career of Miles Davis does not fit neatly into the preconceptions about the life and music of jazz musicians. Jazz critics have not accorded him the appreciation he deserves. They've not given him the appreciation he actually needs. According to the passage, which are the following true of the West Coast cool jazz style? Try it out, then I'll discuss it in 30 seconds. Quickly have a look at this, guys. 1 minute, maybe max. Eliminate the options. If you want me to take you back to the passage about West Coast cool jazz, we can even go back to it and then you can eliminate the options. Please have a look at the section and try to answer it now. Let me show you the question now so that we can discuss. Here is the question. Guys, can we discuss the question now? So it says, according to the passage, which of the following true is true for the West Coast school jazz style? It was popularized by Miles Davis. Are we talking about who made it popular? Not really. Characterized by a unified. So A definitely is not there. Characterized by a unified and integrated sound, was played primarily by large ensembles. Introduced a wide variety of chord change patterns? No, but it grew out of innovations developed in New York City. So answer should be E echo for this. Okay? The answer is E echo for this. Let's have a look at this one. Passage suggests which of the following about the kind of jazz played by Miles Davis prior to 1948. It was characterized by rapid tempos and an emphasis on solo playing. Equally balanced ensemble and solo playing was a reaction against more restrictive jazz styles, or is it regarded by purist jazz critics? 30 seconds, tell me the correct answer. It was characterized by rapid tempos, emphasis on solo playing, so answer should be A echo for this, A alpha for this. Right, the answer should be A alpha. Why is my marker not visible? Okay, best describes the author's attitude. This is more like the tonality based question, the tone question. What was the author's tone towards Miles Davis' music? He is feeling sad that all the critics have criticized him. Right? So, uneasily ambivalent? No. Cautious? He's not cautious about him. Grudging respect? Not really that he's grudging the respect. Moderate commendation or appreciate advocacy? Yes, he is appreciating his work. So, answer should be E echo for this. Right? Question number 5. Have a look at this, then we discuss it, guys. Please let me know if you want me to take you back to the passage. It's a tricky question, no doubt. So I'll take you back to the fourth paragraph. Okay, now let's move back to the question. Take 1 minute, then discuss. Guys, can we quickly discuss this? Which of the following creative processes is most similar to Miles Davis' typical studio procedure of the late 1960s as described in the fourth paragraph of the passage, right? So, very important for us to understand, first of all, where is the question hinting at? Right here, it talks about which of the following, creative processes is most similar to Miles Davis, right? Which of the processes similar to Miles Davis? That's what the question is. Typical studio procedure of the late 1960s as described in the fourth paragraph. So even if you look at this, the producer of a television comedy show suggests a setting and general topic for a comedy sketch and then decides the comedians write their own script. It's not then they decide it. Actor digresses from the written script and improvises during a monologue. Actor, he moves away from the written script and improvises, changes it during a monologue. A conductor rehearses each section. So we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out an analogy which is used in the paragraph, and similar analogy which can be picked up here. Artist has several photographers take pictures pertaining to a certain assigned theme and then assemble them into pictorial collage. This can be considered. Teacher has each student in a writing class write an essay on an assigned topic and then submits the best essays to be considered for publication in a journal. We can't consider this. So answer is D, Delhi, for this question. Okay. So this is how we deal with these question types. Um, I hope this was helpful. And now we'll be moving ahead to another passage. Let me just bring out another passage for you so that we can quickly discuss it over. In the meantime, I would like to know if you have to figure out a title for this passage. How would you title it, guys? What title would you like to bring for this particular passage? What is the title you can think of? Okay, please have a look at this passage and let's try reading it. Let's try understanding this one. And then let's see if we can figure out the answers to the questions. Okay, here is the passage. Have a look at it together. Let me know if you're done. This is two paragraphs to it, guys. We can move ahead to the next one. This is the last paragraph, and then we have some questions. 30-40 seconds more, then we move to the next. Okay, next paragraph, guys. Last 1 minute. Can we discuss? Okay, guys, we're gonna move to the questions now. I'm gonna show you some questions. You're gonna try those first, and then we can discuss the passage entirely together. 2 minutes for this very simple question, primary purpose passage question. All right, moving to the next one. Let me take you to the slide number as well, since you've read the question. So this is this line. Often researchers, okay. I'll highlight it properly, maybe with this color. All right. Showing you the question again. So let me tell you the answers for both the questions very quickly. So here the answer is A, and this is D. I'll tell you why and how. I hope you marked it correctly. Let's have a look at the passage together first and then we discuss it. It says Frazier and Mosler assert that medical research could be improvised and improved by a more move towards larger, simpler clinical trials of medical treatments. Okay, so we can improve the medical research by going for more number of trials. Okay, it could be of the vaccines, it could be of the injections or whatever they're using. Currently, the researchers collect far more background information on patients than is strictly required for the trials, substantially more than hospitals collect, thereby escalating cost of data collection, storage, and analysis. Although limiting information collection could increase the risk that researchers will overlook facts relevant to a study, Fraser and Mosler contend that such risk never entirely eliminatable. Sorry, never eliminable from research would still be small in most studies. Only in research on entirely new treatments are new and unexpected variables likely to arise. So, yes, excuse me, guys, I had a bad cough. I hope it gets better. So, Fraser and Mosler propose not only the researchers limit data collection on individual patients, but also that researchers enroll more patients in clinical trials. So, what is the agenda? To increase more number of research done. And if they want to increase the number of research done, naturally they would want to research more patients, right? Enroll more patients in clinical trials. They were obtaining a more representative sample of the total population with the disease under study, often researchers restricting study participation to patients who have no ailments, no problems besides these being studied. A treatment judged successful under these ideal conditions can then be evaluated under normal conditions. Broadening the range of trial participants, Fraser and Mosler suggest, would enable researchers to evaluate a treatment's efficacy. Overall, what are we doing? We are trying to increase the number of patients being researched so that we can have better trials. So, primary purpose is about describing the proposed changes to the ways in which clinical trials are conducted. We want to describe basically how the researches are conducted. And here it talks about a study of the category of patients referred to in line number 20 to 22. Often researchers restrict study participation to patients who have no ailments besides those being studied. So it should be its findings might have limited applicability. So option number A. I hope these passages were simple to understand. We'll be having more to study on the coming Sunday. We'll be discussing more passages then. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great night. See you very soon, guys. Thank you so much.